Last week, Samsung stealthily released both the Galaxy A54 and the Galaxy A34. By stealthily, I mean literally no preamp or any hype at all. We just get an email saying that these two phones are now officially announced. It's a jarring change since the A series from a year ago had the same hype as the Galaxy S series of smartphones. Anyway, let's focus on the phone itself. Supposedly, the Galaxy A54 is Samsung's latest and best within the Galaxy A series because the alleged A74 is now gone. And we also have the Galaxy A34 with us, and the review of this phone will come soon. And we also have some comparison between the A34 and A54, and I found out a lot of differences about these two smartphones. Quick disclaimer, this Galaxy A54 is not the retail unit, but as far as I know, it is very near the finished product, or at least it is finished, just that the firmware has some developer options enabled for them for debugging and whatnot. So do keep that in mind. By the time that you get this phone on your hands, things might change. And as usual, everything is timestamped down below here, so you can skip to whichever part that you want to know the most. So let's get started with our review to know more about this phone and whether or not if it's good. We'll start off with the design. It now has a new design that is very similar to the Galaxy S23 series. Each camera is now a protruding circle, and I personally do like this design a lot more because it's more minimalistic and clean. However, I do think that Samsung is kind of overusing the same design language since both the Galaxy S series and A series do look very similar now. The A54 is also available in a total of 4 different colors: lime, violet, graphite, and also white color. The one that we have here is the lime color, and yes, it is very striking. What I don't like though is the glossy plastic finish at the back of this phone, and I have no idea why Samsung decided to suddenly change it back to a glossy finish, whereby the Galaxy A34 that we have here uses a matte finish. From what I can feel, the frame of the phone is a bit thicker than the front and the back of the phone, so if I do this to the phone, then yeah, I can definitely feel that the frame is thicker than the screen and back panel. And since we're talking about the Galaxy A series, the camera is a big focus. There are two big changes this time around. So firstly, the main camera got changed to a 50 megapixel sensor, and secondly, the useless depth sensor is now gone. Thank you Samsung for doing that. By the way, the camera protrusion of the Galaxy A54 is really high. Maybe that is because the focal length of the lenses, and we'll talk about this more in a little while. We took a lot of pictures with this phone and the colors do look good. However, the dynamic range is a little bit weird as the shadows appear to be dark in these shots, but does a very good job in highlighting the shadows in shots like this. Night shots do look good, but the sky is a little bit grainy, but I'm okay with it since it's barely noticeable, especially if you're going to post this on social media. When we switch over to the ultra-wide-angle camera, I immediately realized that the ultra-wide-angle camera is really extremely wide. By checking the metadata of the ultra-wide-angle camera pictures, I can see that the focal length is at 13mm. No wonder the pictures are so different from the other ultra-wide-angle cameras that I've used in the past. The second thing that I realized is the lack of color consistency between the main and also the ultra-wide-angle cameras. The main camera appears to be cooler, whereby the ultra-wide-angle camera pictures appear to be a lot warmer. The ultra-wide-angle camera also struggles to take night shots, so do keep that in mind. We'll also quickly highlight the macro camera as well. That 5 megapixel fixed focus lens can take pictures like this, but I'm really not a fan of it. I would have personally preferred an auto-focusing macro camera, and maybe in the next Galaxy A series, I don't know. I also quickly want to do a quick selfie camera test here. Now, I don't usually take selfies a lot, but I do know a lot of you will take selfies, so here's what it looks like. We'll also talk about the video capabilities of this phone. We can record up to 4K 30fps or 1080p 60fps, but I advise you not to use these settings because it relies on EIS to stabilize the footage, and there is a lot of warping. Looking at this footage for 5 seconds makes me nauseous. So I recommend you to record at 1080p 30fps, and it is better because we can actually enable video stabilization option that uses the proper optical image stabilization system, and it looks a lot better. How about the display then? Well, here's the thing. They changed quite a lot. For now, we have a 6.4-inch screen, which is 0.1 inch smaller than before, but I do feel like the bezels are a lot thicker than before. We do have the Galaxy A53 with us, so you can look at it side by side. The screen resolution also got changed to 2380 by 1080 pixels in resolution, and it retains the 120Hz refresh rate. What's improved though is actually the brightness. When I got this phone, I immediately started using this phone under the direct bright sunlight, and I can still see what's going on the screen. And when we shine our studio lights directly onto the phone, our colorimeter reported 1000 nits brightness. That is impressive. The color accuracy is also fantastic. Our colorimeter reports that this screen covers 100% of sRGB and 99.96% of DCI-P3 color gamuts, but the maximum delta E number is actually quite high at 3.3. Nonetheless, the screen is gorgeous, and I just think that the bezels are a little bit thicker than before. And if you want to play some games on your Galaxy A54, then this part is very important for you. The phone is powered by the new Exynos 1380 chipset, and that is where things get a little bit weird. Every time a new chipset comes into the market, we'll have to wait for it to get optimized and for the game developers to enable proper graphical settings for that particular chipset and phone. That is exactly what's happening for the Galaxy A54. In our gaming test, we mentioned that many games do not have higher refresh rate option even though the phone can clearly handle it. That is why we always use Genshin Impact as our primary game to test, because that game does not have any artificial locks. At the lowest graphical settings, this phone can achieve about 40 FPS on average, and I do think that it will provide a very decent gaming experience overall. As for the temperature of the phone, it can reach somewhere around 43 degrees Celsius, which is slightly higher than what I expect, but it is still comfortable to hold. And of course, we performed the retro to summon the battery bypass feature, and yes, we do have that on the Galaxy A54 too. So if you want to perform the retro yourself, watch the video at the top right corner there to know how. Speaking of that, let's now talk about the battery life. The phone comes with a 5000 mAh battery, and with our usual PCMark battery life test lock at 100 nits of brightness, we can get about 13 hours, which means that we can use it for one full day with no problems. The charging speed is also unchanged from last year, so 25 watts is the maximum wattage that this phone can accept, and it takes nearly an hour and a half to charge from 15% to completion. I do believe that Samsung can make the charging speed faster since there is some thermal headroom. Now take a look at this temperature graph here. It's always below 37.5 degrees Celsius, and all of the other phones that I have reviewed that has higher charging speeds will always keep it below 40 degrees Celsius. So yeah, we do have quite a lot of headroom here to improve in terms of charging speed. And then comes the software. The Galaxy A54 5G is using the same One UI 5.1 as the Galaxy S23 series, but without the fancy features like lifting certain objects by holding it onto the subject. We do have the feature to generate some kind of short video like this, which I have no idea what's it called, but it does look fancy. The usual Samsung apps that I use are also present on this phone, so we have Moods and Routines, Samsung Pay, and also Edge Panel. Everything else is the same as the Galaxy S series, so there's nothing much to talk about it here. And a few more things to mention before ending this review. The Galaxy A54 still has IP67 rating, and that's fantastic. It does have a dedicated SIM card slot and another combo slot, so you can stuff in a microSD card if you want to. And that's all we have to share with you about the new Samsung Galaxy A54. At the time of this filming, we still do not have the price yet. I'm literally rushing this review for you guys so that you can be informed about the product before making any purchases or pre-orders. Once I have the price, I'll leave my thoughts down in the comment section below and also in the description. So yeah, do come back here when we have the price to, further conclude our review here. And that's all for today. The next review is going to be the Galaxy A34, and this is an interesting phone. I highly recommend you to watch that review as well before making your purchase for the Galaxy A54. Because yeah, I do believe that some parts Galaxy A34 offers a better value. So do check that out as well. So see you there. Goodbye.